student, Dr. Het Shah, and he secured an amazing rank of 5 in INICET November 2021 session. So this is absolutely amazing, Het. I think you've done something which many people aspire for. So, Aj, how do you exactly feel reaching this far?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having me on this interview. So yeah, definitely. Right now, I am the feeling is the sinking, so it has not completely sunk in yet.
I
So it was something that I used to dream about, and now that I'm on the other side, it really feels a strange sensation, really. But it is quite a relief. It almost seems like a major burden has been removed, and it seems like the life has my life has a new direction now, which I am really very happy about at this
I
point.
think that is very well put. It's a mixture of so many emotions, something
Yeah,
that you dream about.
yeah,
And as we always say, that reaching this far isn't easy, securing a single digit rank, which is really, so nice in an institute where we all aspire to be, right? And now INICT has all the important institutes. So मुझे ये जानना है, your journey hasn't been easy because people usually think, toppers take it easy. But I would like to tell everyone here that Heath has been a 3-year student with us, and it's been a long journey. He has really worked hard right from the beginning, and this is something that I really want to hear, Heath. कि जब हमने शुरू किया होगा उस वक्त शायद नहीं पता होगा कि where we will reach. So what was the mindset when you started your preparation, long back, 3 years back?
so the thing is, the most frank thing that I can say is I never really prepared for the PG entrance exam. So when I joined AIMS on the first day itself, my basic goal was to just do the basics right. So I read the
Okay.
standard textbooks as it is. I read whatever materials were provided by the college, by the university, and whatever I could gather online. So the thing was, I never really solved an MCQ till I was in the final year.
Yes.
So the thing
And
was,
for and with us also, you were doing the classes and you were regularly attending the classes. So इससे पहले कि हम MCQ पे जाए हैं, मुझे इस बात पे आपने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली that you were your goal was to have a very strong foundation. Yes, and as you said, your main focus was to clear your basics. So this is something that I really want to stress upon and tell, because exams are changing, patterns are changing, we see less number of repeat questions. So it's all about your concept and your understanding, right?
yeah. So yeah, definitely. And I did attend DAMS classes, but if I am to be really honest, it was really difficult for me to sit throughout the 12 hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because even though I like to study, but my concentration span really breaks in between. So the thing was, I used to attend DAMS classes, but only after I had completed my own self study about the particular subject. So
Great.
I always made sure, whenever I used to attend classes, I used to make sure that I was ahead of what the teacher was going to teach.
That's
So
so
it,
wonderful.
it so it served as a revision tool, as a kind of a tool, for which in order to integrate the concepts,
Right.
because I was already, thorough about what he's going to teach next. I would know it because I had studied it on my own beforehand. So DAMS for me was not a really a concept building goal. It was more of an integrating platform.
Wonderful.
So the thing was, it helped me to integrate the topics and how to find the correlation between those topics, and that was what I used to go and listen. And I'll be honest, I did not make proper notes in my dance classes. My
Okay.
main goal was listening to what was going on the board. That's all I did, because
Great.
I had my preparations beforehand. I had studied my textbooks and my review books, and I did not have a single source notes for each subject. I did not make them. My main preparation was to just go and listen to the topics and to the concepts being discussed. So they are just getting brushed up again and again in my mind, and they're just getting solidified in my brain. So that is what I mainly use DAMS for, and it served as a perfect tool for that purpose, according to me. Yeah.
I think that's very well put, because sometimes we don't realize, but different aspects of a same question or a concept can be asked in so many ways. It could be a visual, it could be a single liner, it could be a clinical vignette. So always getting that 360-degree perspective. And as you said, joining the dots is so very important, especially if we look at the current pattern of exams. Now, coming to your final year, hey, तब बता रहे थे that's when you started practicing questions, right? So तब हमने कैसे अपना balance किया between theory and MCQ? What were your targets so that somebody who's listening to you and wants to prepare for the upcoming INICET would get a good idea on how they balance theory and MCQ?
So yeah, when I came in my final year, definitely in AIMS, my focus was on the final professional examinations. So
Yes.
I did my textbooks thoroughly whenever I was preparing. But at the same time, I started with solving the previous year MCQs about the exams that were being held. So I
Okay.
started, looking at the previous year questions in review books, also in question banks that are available on apps. So all those things I used to just look at the topics that are being asked in those exams. So when
Right.
I used to go through my textbooks, I would focus more on those obscure topics, some of
Okay.
which are not really asked important in our professional examinations. So that
Right.
is how I prepared in my final year. So when I finished my final year, I had a really good idea that what was going to be asked in the actual exams. What are the
Okay.
what we call the hot and the happening topics which are being asked thoroughly in every year exam. So I had a very good idea before I started my internship that these are the topics that I need to go through really well, and that foundation was laid in the final year. Because I prepared those MCQs during that phase,
Great.
and that was the main intention in my final year. Yes.
I think that's a wonderful way because sometimes we keep the previous year questions towards the last. दो तरह के बच्चे होते हैं. So there are a category who would do it close to the exams. But I think this is again an amazing way to go retrograde so that you can cut short the time eventually as you keep going close to the exam. I think before his internship itself, Heath has already planned his content as well as also planned on how to make things to be done in a shorter span of time, and that is what he said he used the previous year questions for as well. And now he's something about when did you start practicing grand tests, and depending on what your score is, let's say you're getting some number of correct questions, how did you ensure that you reach the next level, right? So tell us
So
something
yeah,
about that.
the first grant test that I gave was in November last year.
Okay.
So I attended because at that point in time I did not practice my first and second year subjects, but
Okay.
on my previous knowledge, whatever I knew about the concepts, I attended the grant test, and fortunately I got a good enough rank and a below 100 rank at that point in time. So
That's
the thing
great.
is that so I was definitely assured about myself that I am actually at a good position right now itself, and all I need to do is consolidate over that foundation. So I think I actually gave around 10 to 12 grant tests during my internship.
Okay.
So my main intention was to give at least once in every 1 month, because I did not want to I wanted to put a habit of the time, that is the time management during the exams. So I had a good idea. By the time entered the actual examination hall, I was sure that I have to solve this much questions in this much time, and that was the main purpose for me to give an actual grand test or a mock test, because I think that if you give the grand test or if you give an actual exam directly without any preparation, then time management can be a crucial or real issue, which I wanted to avoid. So I did not go too much into my ranks in the grand test, because I think that when a person gives a grand test, the factors are very different than what an actual exam is like, because
True.
there is no pressure, or also many people they are free to refer to their books in between on this online grand test. So a lot of
Right.
factors actually happen when the ranks are prepared. So it is actually very, it is wise not to go too much or not to evaluate too much about your rank. I think the most important thing is, I think we should see the mistakes that were happening before and whether or not they're happening now. So if you see an improvement, then definitely you are in the right direction, and that's all that matters. So the thing is, a grant test should be done as a tool of getting the actual exam feel, and as a tool of learning self-management. And I think that is the only purpose that a grant test should serve at this point in an exam like this. Yeah.
I think very well put. And I could identify three key things that Heath has talked about the grant test. Number one, don't make targets which are non-doable. So, he started with once a month thing and he was more, focused on time management and identifying his mistakes so that he's not repeating the same things. So that's number one. So don't think that if you do it too frequently, you're going to improve. It's absolutely right. Do it at the right pace so that you're able to work on it. Second thing he said was his focus was not primarily the rank, but yes, he did well, but his focus was still to keep improving, to find out what his weak areas is. So I think those are very, very key things that you've talked about. Also, Hate, I want to ask you, did you follow up with the TND program at DAMS? Did you attend the test papers?
So actually, I did not go on offline centers to give the DAMS test, but on our WhatsApp group, we used to have a TND a PDF paper sent every time. So
Yes.
definitely, I used to go through those and solve them on my own. And the thing is, whenever I saw an obscure question or a question which which has to be memorized, I had a separate WhatsApp group in which only I was a member of
Okay.
for each subject. Yeah, so I
That's
put
very
all the
interesting.
screenshots. I put all the screenshots in that one place for my final go through. So I had a collection, and those WhatsApp groups I maintained since the last 3 years actually.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I had all those weird facts and all those memory-based things which I collected over a period of 3 years in those groups. So actually, that was like a gold mine of facts and knowledge, which were actually very good in the actual exams. So if in any case,
And I think, hey, now you'll get a lot of messages for people asking you to forward you or make them a part of this group that that you had actually made only for yourself. So
yeah,
be
yeah,
ready
yeah.
for that. But no, I think this is what exactly I was talking about कि जिस रैंक पे हम पहुंचे हैं उसके पीछे बहुत सारी मेहनत है और वो मेहनत एक दिन की नहीं है, वो पिछले 3 साल की मेहनत है. And something that you must all, whoever is listening, should understand that there is also a strategy behind what he is doing. It's not a random study. ये भी मुझे बोलना है बहुत बार है, I think आप agree करोगे कि बहुत सारे बच्चे they would be spending hours, but the study sometimes seems very haphazard. They're jumping from one subject to another, or sometimes from a question to sometimes to theory. So, what is your idea about planning your study? So, ek mujhe zarur janna hai, as if I was a student and listening to you, I would want to ask, how did you plan your day? Let's say in the last 1 year when you were doing your internship, हम कैसे अपना दिन प्लान करते थे पढ़ाई करने के लिए?
So I think of myself as a more of a traditional approach in my studies. So I
Okay.
used to rely on my textbooks and my review books, and I used to do them multiple times. So I believed I believed in repetitions as many times as possible, because I never studied from multiple sources. I never had 3 or 4 sources for one subject. I only had one book to be done multiple times. That's all my preparation was. And basically, my thing was I always used to do one subject at one time. I would allot a given number of days, like 3 days for, let's say, orthopedics revision or ENT
Yes.
revision for 3 days. I would never exceed the time limit, even if I miss some parts. I would restrict them to 3 days only. And I never did multiple subjects at one time, because that I think it is not a very good way of preparing a solid concept or solid foundation. I think if you read from one source like 2 or 3 times, then I think it really creates a very great idea about the entire subject in one particular place. So that was my basic thing. I always used to focus on repetitions, and I used to trust my books, and the books that I used in my MBS preparation or the books that I used in my internship for the PG as well. So I never deviated from that source, because I believe that if you do from one book properly, it is much more help than doing from multiple sources and you're not really grounded in any particular source. I like to be grounded from one particular source. So that was my basic strategy. Yeah.
I think again, because with the plethora of information that we have
Yeah.
around, this is absolutely essential. नहीं तो हम गुम जाते हैं. See, medical science is so vast. You can never say you know enough. So somewhere you have to realize that you have to draw a fine line that you're preparing for an entrance exam, and then once you join your post graduation, you have a sea of knowledge to dig into,
Mhm.
and you can keep evolving. So, but yes, as he said, it's important to restrict. It's important to restrict to one source, do it multiple times, do fast revisions. I think those are the key ingredients that make a difference when you reach to a top rank. So, a great insight, Heath, on that. And now, Heath, I want to ask you, let's say 6 months before the exam, how did you change your strategy, beta?
So unfortunately, what happened was I had my village posting just 3 months previous to the exam. So
Right.
August, September, October, we had very hectic internship in that part. So I found very less time for studies. But even that, the 6 months before that, when I had a little more time than that, my
Hmm.
basic thing was I wanted to leave one reputation for the last 3 months. So
Okay.
before that, I completed the entire 19 subjects in the 6 months before that. So when I was in my village, my basic focus was to do all the stuff which I had done before, and to focus only on those things which I did not feel very confident in. So
Okay.
whenever I read a book again or review book again, I would only focus on those topics which I was feeling a bit shaky in. So for
Great.
example, in ophthalmology, I found squint as a very shaky topic. So I would
Hmm.
focus on squint more than some topic like diabetic retinopathy, which I was comfortable with.
Right.
So I think it is important to focus your vision on a particular subjects, on a particular topics in which you find a bit difficult or a bit confusing, and to revise them towards the end of those 2 or 3 months. Because reading end to end in that time period is not a very good idea. So I think the best thing is to just select or to filter out some topics. Or you can take one day off and just sit down and just think about every subject in the topics that you find difficult in, and make a list of that, and then just do the those topics in the next 2 or 3 months. So that is what I believed, and because I had all these WhatsApp groups and I had prepared all those things before, so I had my lists ready about the topics that I found difficult, or in which I often made MCQ mistakes. So
Right.
I focused on that topics only in the time that I had, which was quite less in the last 3 months.
Now, this is exactly what I would say is the mindset of a topper. What we would want to do sometimes is that we want to shy away from our weaknesses, or, sort
Yeah.
of tell them, okay, I'll do them later or later and later, and that tomorrow never comes. But when we talk about the mindset of a topper, it's about taking the challenges head on. I think that's what Heath did. He took the things that were troublesome for him, or little or a more or whatever, but he took them head on and he ensured that he's doing them again, as he says, multiple times to have a good grasp and ensure that they are not the ones pulling him down. So I absolutely love that strategy, Heath. Also, Heath, I want to ask you, close to the exams, हम लोग CBT रखते हैं. So did you happen to give the CBTs, especially for the
Uh,
INICET?
Unfortunately, no, because I was posted in my village, so I was
Oh,
not
yeah.
able to attend.
Right.
So the only mode of testing myself was giving an online exam. So that
Yes.
was the only option available. So the last exam I gave, the last grand test was around 20 days before.
Okay.
So I gave that was the only test I gave before the actual exam. And in the last 20 days, I only focused on my topics. I used to make one day for one subject, and I used to go through the important topics of those things. For example, if you're talking about microbiology, then I would like to go through the culture media and the photographic, the images, and all those things. So that was how I planned out my last 19-20 days, that I would
Great.
allot, and I always used to keep the more memory-based subject like forensic medicine towards the end. So, for
Yes.
example,
You
forensic medicine,
anyways
I
have to
was
read them again.
yeah, forensic medicine I read on the day before the exam only. So it helped me a lot in the actual exam, because it is a subject that evaporates quite fast. So
Yes.
I think it is best studied towards the end of the exam, and topics like medicine and surgery can be read before, because I think they are more conceptual, and you can retain them for longer.
Completely
So that
agree
is
with
how
you.
you order the subjects in the last 19-20 days. And it is not essential to go everything, to read everything. Just focus on the topics that you feel unconfident, or you don't feel very quite happy dealing those topics with. For example, pharma numericals can be one topic in which you want to revise the formulas, the equations, and in community medicine, biostatistics can be one topic that you want to revise before the last. So all these things have to be prepared, and these are things that you will get to know only if you have revised before, because nobody can tell you about, these are topics that are going to be asked. These are personal things which have to be evaluated on a personal basis, that this is the topic that I don't feel confident in, and this is what I am going to revise. So it is always
I
a good idea to prepare a list beforehand of the
आई
topics.
थिंक हे बहुत अच्छी अच्छी बातें कर रहा है। दो चीजें मैं दोबारा से बोलूंगी जो बहुत अच्छी हैं, बिकॉज आई ऑफ्टन टेल दोज थिंग्स एंड पीपल डोंट अंडरस्टैंड द इम्पोर्टेंस। सो एक अच्छी बात उसने बोली, एंड यू शुड टेक इट सीरियसली बिकॉज द टॉपर इज सेइंग दैट कि 15 days 20 days before the exam it's not possible to do every subject from A to Z. So even he didn't do it, he could recall it, so his focus was more on his weaknesses. So you all should understand this, that don't make unrealistic targets and don't try and do everything about everything. You have to find out what your weak areas is and focus on them close to the exam. And secondly, yes, a wonderful tip that volatile subjects should be done close to the exams because you anyways have to keep doing them over and over again. And now, Heath, maybe something about the paper that you can tell us. So this paper was very different from the previous ones. There were not many repeats, and I think the weightage of subject distribution is also pretty skewed. So, kuch bhi apni taraf se which you feel would help students for the upcoming INICET about the pattern.
Well, the first thing I felt was it was quite similar to the May paper. I mean, the topics and the things were quite, from the same dimension, because electron microscopy images and all those orthopedic tests and all those things. I think they were quite similar domains, but the questions were quite difficult. And I found that the difficulty level and the trickiness level and the options were confusing. They tested you on a core concepts. I think whenever I saw the paper, my first feeling was that this question I am aware of, but I'm confused at which option to mark, either A or B. So
Okay.
the options were framed in that pattern in order to confuse the students. And if you're thorough with your concepts, basic concepts which I talk about that you build during the MBBS, I think it was quite easy then. And the thing was, according to when I analyzed my own recalls and I saw the exam, I did not leave any question. I marked 200 questions,
Wow.
but I
Okay.
got but I think I got around 40 incorrect. So the thing
Okay.
was, it was quite a difficult paper that even after getting 40 incorrect, you are getting a single digit rank, which means that most people found it difficult. And
Yes.
the thing was, so that is the thing, that in papers like this, what matters is how good or how good your concepts are. And if you're thorough with them, if you are thorough with the previous year questions and the topics that were asked in those exams, then you'd find it a relatively bit easier to do this paper. But even for me, if I am to be frankly honest, I was not very confident about my attempt in the actual exam, because I thought that I got quite a few easy questions wrong, which I could
Okay.
have gotten correct if I had marked the correct option, because I was confused between the two options.
Right.
So the thing is, what matters is, the difficulty of the paper. If it is high, everyone is going to find it difficult. So all you have to do is just stick to your concepts and try to maintain a focused mind during the 3 hour duration. Because if you find a few difficult questions that are asked to you first up, and then you lose your focus, and then you make silly mistakes in the easier questions as well. So it is very important to just remain focused even if the exam is not going very well in the initial phase.
Right.
So even though it was my first experience of an actual exam, because I had never attempted a real life PG exam before, but
Yeah.
I think it went quite well in that, considering that factors.
You need to be applauded on that. I think not quite well is not the right word. It went excellent, and it just shows the hard work, the sheer dedication, and the strategy and planning as well with the content. I think because that's equally important. And hey, on that note, okay, anything about subject distribution data that you can comment on?
Yeah, the first thing I found was definitely orthopedics and forensic medicine were highly represented in this exam.
Okay.
Because orthopedics normally you don't expect a lot of questions from that, but this time there were around 8 or 9 questions in that domain. Also,
Okay.
forensic medicine's questions were quite a bit. But the traditional subjects like surgery and medicine, I think they were quite core medicine. I mean, you could not have gotten them wrong if you were well prepared in your medicine notes. They were nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Also, there was a lot of focus on the preclinical subjects. I think biochemistry and physiology was quite represented in the exam. So physiology also, the questions, some of them were quite good, like the systolic volume and pressure curve and all those questions. So I
Yes.
think a good reading about the concepts of physiology was quite required in that exam. It is something which we haven't seen in the previous exams. They were not asking that detailed questions in physiology and biochemistry in that particular exam.
Right.
Also in anatomy, I found quite a bit of image based questions. I think there were overall 50 or 60 image based questions in the paper. So
Okay.
there was definitely a huge component of visual questions in the exam. So I think it mattered that you had actually read your textbooks and your actual practicals in your MBS colleges quite well, because they were asking actual gross dissection images and framing questions out of those. So
Yeah.
definitely a visual component was quite high.
Okay. And yes, I think even Obs and Gynae had good 22 number of questions, but the questions were
Yeah.
fairly, they weren't very odd questions or something out of the blue. So I think that gives you
OBGI, yeah, OBGI, I would like to definitely say that I only refer DAMS notes even in my profs and in my internship for OBG, because I think they had everything. And even then, I actually feel quite unfortunate that I got a few questions wrong in OBG, which I could have gotten right, and but they were still mentioned in the notes. That is what I would like to say. So the thing is, the dose of cabertocin, for example, I got the question wrong, but the thing was, it was there in the notes, and I think it covered all the bases that you would require in actual exam. So OBG, yes, there were 20 plus questions, and most of them were quite gettable if you were quite thorough with the notes. And I think that OBG follows that pattern every time. You expect some 20 questions around in OBG, and most of them are scoring questions, because it is considered a scoring subject if you are well thorough with it.
true.
So I think, yeah, DAMS notes, I think, should be the only thing that is referred for OBG. Yeah, that was the only thing I did.
That's great. So kind of you. Now, wonderful, Hate. I think बहुत सारी अच्छी बातें मुझे सुनने को मिली about strategy, which I think the students would definitely use, and they will feel more confident as well coming from you. And now I really want to ask you, what branch do you want to pursue, Beta?
Uh, well, I'll be honest, I'm comfortable with anything. So the thing is that I don't really have a preference. I'm comfortable with medicine, pediatrics, MCS, surgery, whatever. So the thing is, what I'm going to plan is I'm going to consult with some of my seniors about the actual conditions in those branches. So that is
Okay.
what I plan to do in the next over the next few days. I would like to actually, I don't know, ask them about the actual conditions, and depending upon that, I would make a decision for my future. So the thing that I like about me the most is whatever you put me in, I'm okay with that. So that was
That's
even
so,
before that
that
was
is
even
so
after 10th.
sweet.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a doctor like that. No, you put them in any situation and they can adapt and do well. So that's
Actually, in
great.
my mind really, I was okay with pathology as well. I was comfortable with pathology because I liked the subject. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's my mindset. Whatever branch you put me in, I would try to give my best in that and try to make a career out of that. That's it. That's the basic thing.
That's yet another punchline from Heath, huh? So whatever branch it is going to be, he's going to do his best, and I think that's all what we should all aspire for, right?
Definitely.
Because eventually, as people, as patients, we need good doctors in every branch. Every branch is connected to the other. We are all each other's support system, and one is incomplete without the other. So I'm sure wherever you go, Bhet, you're going to make a lot of difference to patients' life, and you would make a difference in the branch as well. So I'm wishing you all the very best from everybody here at DAMS. We're so proud of you, and we've learned so many things and how things can be done in a better way. And now, as you know, as we say goodbye, do you want to give any message to your juniors, your friends, or whoever is listening to you right now?
Well, the only message that I can give in terms of preparation is basically if you focus on your subjects during your MBBS, I think that is the 80% about the preparation of PG the entrance. So if you are well thorough with your subjects in undergraduate years, then most of your workload is already completed. So that is the only thing that I would like to say. And about the exams itself, I would say that it is advisable not to just get fixated on the idea of the PG entrance exam. So most people, what I see my juniors doing is when they start their first years, they're always obsessed about the PG entrance exam first year itself. So I
Right.
don't think it's a very good thing to do. I think it is important to enjoy MBBS as a process, as a part of a life, and just consider the entrance exam as a way of getting admission to a branch. That's it. That
True.
is the only importance that this exam has, and I don't think it should be over glorified in any other sense. So I think these ranks are not your identities. I think it is your skills, it is your demeanor, all that matters in the long run. So it would be very wrong to attach your identity to a number, and that is the only advice that I would like to give to my
That's
juniors.
that's really really sweet, Heath, and I think that's a very heartfelt message. And he's so true that you are just not a number, you're so much beyond that. And I love that thing about you, Hate, and I'll always remember that. And I think that's also a wonderful message to give out, because this is just an entry point to change your phase of life, and it should be taken as an opportunity, and that's about it. So it was absolutely wonderful, Hate, to be here with you and share the stage with you. So I'm thrilled and I'm happy, and I wish you the best in life today, tomorrow, and always. God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.